ecology. And at the same time, we have to balance between farmers that are at risk of losing their income. And we talk about a large percentage of the population in rural economies like in Kenya. So how do we balance that? Because if we're not careful, we abuse the ecology. So we get what we see now, global warming, nitrogen, leaching, phosphate fixation, many challenges, deforestation. So how do we balance this? And do we basically need a sixth agricultural revolution where all these new available tools, AI, blockchain, where they also use not only to generate food-safe products and take care of the environment, basically protect the ecology, but also to make sure that we optimize opportunities for farmers and specifically for small-scale farmers. So I would like to invite the panelists to join at the podium, and specifically Dr. Chagema to start with your first presentation.
Still morning, good morning everybody. We are talking about SPS compliance. Globally, SPS compliance is a product of what the owner of the product does and what the regulator does. So you must at all times ensure that both the private sector who produce the products and the competent authorities who give the certification are working in tandem. So as co-lead, we were privileged to implement the Next Kenya program, which was funded by the EU to the tune of 5 million. We started in 2020, and I think all of you know what was happening in 2020. It was the height of COVID, and therefore we had to become very innovative on how we reached the stakeholders. The program had 3 result areas. I'll start with the bottom one, which is looking at the bottlenecks that are within the horticulture value chains. And of course, we're talking about horticulture here because that is one of the major exports to the EU. And this was a study that we undertook, and we ended up with about 122 bottlenecks in the value chain, starting from production to compliance. And SPS was a key thing. The other result area was looking at the capacities of the MSMEs and the BMOs to really address the issues in terms of complying with the requirements of the market. And the second one was to do with the workings around the competent authorities, that's the regulator. Now go back to the statement I said earlier. If you are producing and you're doing it right, and the competent authority does not have a clue of what you are doing, what is the net result? Becomes a challenge. So we worked with both the MSMEs, the competent authorities, including in the identification of the bottlenecks. Now, SPS per se does not live in isolation. It is the end product of what you've done right from production going up. And when you look at some of the things that are within the value chains, we have got a tool we call SAS, which helps us measure where an MSME is, starting with the interventions you have in terms of capacity building. And we did an assessment, because it's a tool that has almost 900 questions. We did an assessment to look at where they were as we were starting. And when we closed the program, to look at where they were in terms of complying with the requirements. And this is the general trend. This shows that the MSMEs or the stakeholders are ready to take on the information that's available to improve their productivity. Whether you're talking about food safety, whether you're talking about water management or soil management, they were actually ready to take on the challenges. The thing is, how do you structure the capacity to ensure that it is taken on board sustainably? Because sometimes we speak and we speak to ourselves rather than speaking to the people who really need to use the technology. The other thing is to do with if you've done the right things in production, What does the market say? Of course, my colleague Sianda will come up. If you look like where we started around 2019, there were 77 notifications of harmful organisms, and there were only 2 RASIF interceptions, RASIF referring to food safety issues. SPS is food safety and plant health. Okay. Now, if you look at where we closed, you can see the numbers, 138 and 41 notifications of RASIF. So one would say, did you really work? Or what were you doing? But I would like you to look at, if you look at 2019, based on the record that is available at KFIS, there were only 346,000 phytosanitary certificates issued, which will relate to the number of consignments that went. Now look at 2024. It is 554. So it means relatively the MSMEs have improved their workings, the competent authority has improved their working. There are still some challenges. And this is the question then that comes up. How do we employ the tools that are available to improve on what is happening in the value chains, and working together, we enhance our export potential and enhance SPS compliance? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Sianda, please.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Josiah Sianda. I work for the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. This is the National Plant Protection Organization, or the competent authority responsible for overseeing the implementation of the SPS. As my colleague, Dr. Kedera, has mentioned about SPS, this is a sanitary and phytosanitary agreement which is made by the members under the WTO. And essentially, it is the agreement on how to undertake the movement of plant products and other regulated articles across the borders to avoid the introduction, establishment, and spread of pests, and also to protect human, animal, plant, and environmental health. So essentially, whenever there is the implementation of the SPS, that is sanitary and phytosanitary measures, the objective is to ensure, or to ensure that human health, animal health, plant health, and environmental health are protected, while at the same time we are doing trade and exchange of these plant materials. Now, essentially, when we are looking at implementation of these SPS measures, I've listened to Willem when you're giving the history of agriculture development, and we've seen that there's agriculture develops and there's businesses develop. There's also the supporting tools that go alongside. Essentially, we've seen the use of manual processes and especially paperwork in carrying out implementation of these SPS measures. And you'll note that the use of manual processes creates inefficiencies and creates a lot of bottlenecks, and in some cases, or most cases, leads to fraud and aspects of failure to comply with the objects of the SPS intention or the agreement. And therefore, digital tools comes in very, very much handy in resolving some of these issues. And I'll just mention some of them. Aspects of traceability, where there is visibility of what is happening at the production, happening at the processing, and happening at the placement of the product at the marketplace. If there is lack of visibility, then the component of achieving the objects or the intent of protecting is lost. And therefore, digital tools provides that visibility, which is normally through those issues of traceability. The other aspect that we've seen in the use of digital tools is creating efficiency, where if you're using manual processes and you're supposed to provide data or information regarding a certain shipment or a certain movement of a product, you'll naturally have to fill that form over and over again. But the digital tools, it's one point, and the data can be reused along the supply chain, therefore creating efficiencies and movement of the product that you want to move. In SPS, risk management is one critical factor. As I said, that whenever we are moving goods and products from one region to another, there's a very high likelihood of moving also organisms that cause problems of pest diseases, plant health issues. And therefore, to prevent that occurring, we manage that risk before it can be manifest. Digital tools provide that opportunity to know and to be aware of those particular challenges and how to mitigate them before they manifest. And this is where in sanitary and phytosanitary circles or measures, the application of surveillance, the application of pest risk analysis, the application of horizon scanning comes in. And these tools help in terms of meeting compliance with the requirement of what is necessary for the placement of a product in the market. In the context of the EU, within the European Union community, the provision of the requirements what traders or anyone that is placing products in the EU, there's the regulation that is aligned to the SPS agreement and measures. And this looks at issues of food safety, which Dr. Kedera has mentioned about the RASIF, that is the Rapid Alert on Feed and Food and Feed. And issues of plant health, where we have to make sure that there is no introduction of harmful pests and diseases in the territory as aligned to, as required. And also the issue of understanding what is happening at the production site. I'll end up my presentation with this. I think today we've taken some food, maybe here or somewhere else. But did you take a note or some time to think, how was that food produced? Can you imagine who produced that food? Are you able to put a finger on the farm and the practices and the person that produced the food? Is it important to you? And I think that's where the digital tools brings this visibility, because you want to know that the food that you've taken is good enough, provide the nutrients, and also, more importantly, it is safe for you and it will not affect you. The issue of climate and environmental protection in terms of moving invasive species, these are areas that we also look at in SPS. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sianda. Very, very interesting. The quantity of data required to manage something like traceability and all these processes, just really a lot. I would like to ask Waseo Machuki from FPEAK to come in for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, the part of the world where I come from, I say it's still morning until I have lunch. In the interest of time, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I was requested by Jan to come and talk about the role of business membership organizations or professional associations in creating awareness and bringing close the digital tools. Just for your information, I was sitting in this room since morning, and we talked about the EU-Kenya trade. For those of you who may not be aware, a lot of the money that we were talking about this morning is money that exporters of flowers, fruits and vegetables earn by taking the produce into the EU. So when the president and the ministers were talking about what we export to the EU, I work for an association that represents those private sector businesses that export to the EU. We have a couple of digital tools utilized by growers, exporters. Before probably this century, a lot of the work that used to be done was manual. Now we have got meters on the soil that we use to measure soil pH, soil CEC, and many other aspects of soil fertility. We have digital tools that are utilized by a section of the farmers to decide at what point do we start or stop irrigation. We have a number of digital tools that are utilized to scout and help us to manage pests and diseases within the ecosystem. We have unmanned vehicles, we otherwise call drones, that we use to spray our crops, sometimes use fertilizer, and we have a number of tools that we use to gather information from the growing areas. We have digital tools that we use now to monitor the temperature of fresh produce on transit from here to the European Union, which is one of our important and largest markets. So how do associations like FPIC then support the smallholder farmers and the medium and large-scale farmers? We work as a platform. We enable the providers of digital tools to reach the members of the associations through trainings, through support, through linkages between the providers of the solutions, and there are many. Some of them are actually in this room, who provide the digital tools that support the SPS that we are talking about. We have platforms where we bring together the providers of those digital solutions and the users of those digital solutions, that is the farmers, the growers, the exporters, the logistics companies, so that in that ecosystem, they can be able to link up and exchange what is working, what is not working, what can be improved. And as we go forward, we see a convergence of ideas between those who develop the various digital tools that we utilize and what is required in the market and what is required on the farm, because then we have to ensure that we utilize the digital tools as a farming community, as a trading community, as an exporting community, to ensure compliance with not only national, but also international requirements for SPS. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Hosea. I would like Kevin Kiambe to come on stage. So we talked so far about the role of the digital tools, but a very important step is at national level, a digital public infrastructure, and Kevin will highlight that.
Good afternoon. You are so low this afternoon, eh? Yeah, so distinguished guests, representatives of the EU, and everyone present, good afternoon once again. I don't know if I start by giving you an African proverb, maybe it will cheer you up as we discuss about the digital tools. So there's a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, what do? You go alone, right? But if you want to go far, you go with others. So on behalf of CALRO, which is the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, representing our head of ICT, Salim Kinyemu, I would like to reflect some of the transformation that has been happening within the sector, especially the agriculture and food systems within the country. So, and this has not been possible without the great coordination between the government agencies, the civil society organizations, the farmer organizations. We've also had a great contribution from the private sector who have been able to support some of the transformation we've had on the sector. So how does the DPI, one of those digitalization tools is the digital public infrastructure. And maybe from the audience, has everyone heard about what a digital public infrastructure is? Maybe by show of hands. Show of hands, what a digital public infrastructure is. I see seemingly it's a new thing. But if you are keen enough, agriculture is one of those cornerstones of Kenya's economy. And since time immemorial, it has really contributed greatly to our GDP. And currently, the sector is geared towards developing policies and impacting on the sector from data-driven solutions and integrated digital systems. One of those solutions, if you've been keen, is the KIAMIS, the Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Information System, which currently has been able to register 6.5 million farmers. The process is continuous. Currently, we are almost at 7 million farmers. So from this, we'll be able to be in compliance with what the SPS wants us from this economic partnership agreement. So we'll be able to trace from production even up to our small-scale farmers who have been our main target within our research ecosystems. So we've been able to share for some time now insights on good agricultural practices. We'll be able to trace that, whether they were able to implement those agricultural practices. We'll be able to perform market intelligence, which has been on the research for some time now. So this will really contribute to being able to achieve Kenya's target. Especially, we recently committed to the United Nations Food Security Summit that digitalization will not be left out, even within the agri-food systems. So with this system, we'll be able to be compliant, 1. 2, we'll be able to perform, to achieve issues of traceability. And then 3, we'll be able to measure whether we are meeting the required standards. So to achieve this, as I started before, if you want to go far, you need to go with others. So we've not been able to reach this far without support from the sectors that we've mentioned. And now, the next phase, now that we have a digital registry, which is essential for our digital public infrastructure, the next thing is to work on the interoperability amongst the systems and then onboard the service providers. We've already onboarded one layer, which is called the agripreneurs. If you are keen enough, within the 31 counties around the country, we've been able to recruit about 7,900 agripreneurs. So these are mainly youth. They go out there and they're able to capture farm level data. So, and then connect the farmers to the right value chain actors. So the next phase now is to onboard these service providers. Of course, at Calro, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, we've been able to register a good number of agro dealers and stockists. So we will be able to connect these people to the farmers and also connect to other layers within the food systems, of course, including the processors, the marketing guys. We'll be able to connect them to logistics, aggregators, and other off-takers, and ensure that by the time a farmer is doing a value chain like avocado, we'll be able to trace whether he did good agricultural practices from the onset of planting to harvesting. By the time he is harvesting, we are able to do all that traceability. So that will work on so maybe what we are missing are now, how do we proceed on with onboarding the service providers? That scans, it is difficult. Some of the service providers are not easy to go with. You see, like the private sector, especially when it comes to exchanging data, it's not easy. But a DPI promises that you will be able to trust that ecosystem to share your data in compliance and won't compromise with your business options. Maybe the last point is to look at what is the government doing in terms of policy alignment. For the agriculture sector, we are working more towards doing more of open standards. Recently, there was a release, the data governance framework, which is a policy guideline as to who owns what. That is already out, and it is being implemented within the counties. Currently, now we are focusing more on the 45 counties. That is more the counties that have more of the farming populations, not leaving out the two mostly urban counties, that is Nairobi and Mombasa. We have separate solutions for them. And all these are in line to ensure that we have a unified approach so that at the end of the day, all of us along all the nodes reap the benefits of digitalization. Finally, maybe I would want to affirm the commitment of Calro towards science-driven innovation, public-private sector collaboration, focusing more on open digital ecosystems, and that will power us to sustainable, resilient agriculture. Finally, I will leave you with one. I like using proverbs. A spider's web is not just its sleeping spring, right? It is also its food trap, right? So let's use this spring not only as a sleeping bay, but also ensure that we use it as our food trap. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I also would like to ask the other panelists to take a seat. In 2004, when I came to Kenya, I was an exporter myself. And I basically seen in the last more than 20 years how digital tools play a bigger and bigger role. We have seen the work also from the different organizations represented by the speakers. And specifically, when I was an exporter, the organization that we benefited from a lot was CoLead. Then it was called CoLACP. And they were really focusing on building the capacity of the exporters to be sure that the exporters would be ready to comply and also then basically stay in business. So thank you very much for your interesting presentations. Dr. Kadema, maybe I can ask you, start with a question to you. So if we look at the importance of the work of CoLead and the examples that you gave where you really showed impact, can I ask a critical question? Is it fast? Is the impact fast enough? Would you be able to cover enough exporters fast enough to make sure they can comply with all the latest requirements?
Yes and no, because the work that CoLead has done with the funding that's available through the EU has been on what is called demand-driven. So if somebody does not know, then, and they do not apply, then they may not be in the loop. But the impact of what is done is was then spread across the sector. Like I said, we were working through it was called National Horticulture Task Force, and now it's called the National Horticulture Steering Committee. So all the ideas that are developed are then shared within the task force to go across the members. But it is important that all the stakeholders or the value chain actors get together such that as you impart the knowledge that's available and as you train, that it is going across the value chain. Remember, when a product is rejected within the EU borders, it is a product of Kenya. It is not for the given exporter. So it is important that all the actors in a given value chain work together. And we've been promoting something we call good practice guides on any given value chain. So whether you're in avocado, you are in tomato, or you are in mango, you then play by the same game. Now, the training or the capacity building has got, I would say, 3 stages. There is what you call the initial phase, where you train a few people. You have to do a TOT in order to have it spread across the actors. Now, is everybody in the value chain appreciative of the need for the training? What are the professional ethics towards applying what they have learned? Then after the training, you have to go through coaching. Because we are all seated in this room, but I will tell you, if you gave one sentence, when you go outside there and ask, what is the sentence William issued? We will end up with different answers, depending on how somebody heard or listened. So that element of coaching needs to be inculcated into our system. And then the last phase is the practice. Have we adopted it is our way of doing things? So those 3 aspects have to be inculcated in the system, then it can move very fast. But for the time being, I would think, yes, for those who have understood the value of what they're doing, it moves very fast. Those who are still assessing, there's some slowness. And then there is the element of cost. Who pays? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So there are many aspects of it. Your CSC under, do you agree and do you see the data requirements and the digital tools to just manage these quantities of data to comply? Do you see that creating, let's say, like a digital divide? Companies that can keep up and companies that basically lose market access? Or do you think these risks are exaggerated?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think there are some keywords here that you've used. One of them is opportunity. And I would like to respond on the basis of that word opportunity within the digital tools and application of SPS. And I want to also respond by giving an example. In 2010, KEFIS, the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, rolled out an automation of the SPS measure system, and this was the electronic certification system. And in 2011, we also rolled out the import certification system. Both are digital tools that were to enhance the services and also the compliance. And obviously these systems are utilized by the exporters, the growers, and within the ecosystem. During that time, that is the time that question was asked, whether it will create opportunities or it will create a gap where traders or people will be left out. I can respond authoritatively today that it created more opportunities than traders being left out. And therefore, moving forward, in terms of utilization and the use of digital tools, I think we need to look at it from a wider ecosystem rather than just production and exporter, because there are so many other players that are using digital tools that are feeding into supporting the growers and exporters. And it's creating more opportunities than not having them. So I would, from where I sit, I would encourage the use of digital tools. And then lastly, the importance and the value of digital tools in application of SPS is that you are able to sieve out some of those in those non-conformities that would rather find their way through the system into non-compliance. So with the use of digital tools, you can manage non-conformity and non-compliance at the production level, and the rest of the product that moves in the rest of the supply chain is compliance. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot. So it's, I think most people agree the opportunities are definitely there. Maybe ask Jose Amachuki, who directly represents exporters that daily struggle with some of the challenges, especially the introduction of the digital tools. Jose, do you agree that these tools mainly create opportunities? Yeah, I mean, Kenya is relatively advanced. If we look at all over Africa, we have, of course, Kenya, maybe South Africa, and Ghana as relatively advanced countries in digitalization. So Kenya is definitely, probably even more important than the other two. So do you agree that there are mainly opportunities here for the private sector, or do you see serious challenges to introduce the digital tools?
Thank you. If I speak on behalf of growers and exporters, probably before we forget, in this decade, we do not have a lot of choice but to utilize digital tools. I remember a while ago when I used to go to Kenya Power and Lighting Company with my physical bill to pay electricity. That could be a journey for probably 3 quarters a day. And nowadays, I'm able to pay my bill from M-Pesa at the comfort of wherever I am. And for those of you, I know many of you drive cars. When your driving license expired, you used to go to KRA, probably queue the whole day to renew your license. Nowadays, you renew your license on e-Citizen, right? We find it normal. Now, the children who will be born in 2030 going forward will not know that their parents and grandparents used to queue for 3 quarters of a day to pay bills and renew driving licenses. That is how we have transformed. Many years ago, if you were to write a letter to Europe, probably it will take 2 weeks to go and another 2 weeks to get a response, so a month to be able to talk to somebody in Europe. Today, on WhatsApp, we get orders for fresh produce. We concretize that by signing the contract. We write emails to our importers. We receive emails from potential importers on orders. And so we are able to send pictures of potential consignments, you know. So that is the journey that we have come. And that presents an opportunity. It's just that sometimes we want everything to work 100%, which is what we desire. Unfortunately, sometimes because of the bugs inherent in the digital tools that, for example, the regulatory authorities utilize. On a Friday evening, the ICMS can decide to take a break. You know, Kentrade may, Porto can decide to take a break on a weekend. But as we do that, you know, the system at the port of Mombasa can decide to take a break on a Friday evening when we want to load a container into the ship. But as we work to solve those bugs, yes, there are opportunities for us, and the world is moving towards digitization, so we cannot be left behind. And we're using digital tools, as I've said, in all manner of places, for production, for logistics, for trade, for money transfer, and you know, it can only be better. For me, the future is bright. We need to bring everybody into this system. Now, the average Kenyan farmer's age, I suppose, somewhere between 60 and 70. Economists will agree on different numbers, but it's so that we are okay, it's somewhere between 60 and 70. Now, those guys may not be able to utilize as fast as we are in this generation the digital tools, but slowly. You know, they are also getting into groups and cooperatives and farm associations so that they can embrace the use of digital tools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So last week I was in Rome for a dialogue organized by the FAO with a number of organizations. We focused on the use of AI in agriculture. But one of the things that came out strongest is basically the big role, the important role, the enabling role of digital public infrastructure. So Kevin, you mentioned DPI, and DPI, even though the name says digital public infrastructure, it's basically, it can be seen as a public-private partnership where data from the private sector feeds information, maybe restricted because of data privacy, etc., but feeds data into a public infrastructure. This is absolutely critical at national level to, for example, collaborate efficiently with the EU. So, Kevin, you mentioned there's some challenges with interoperability. All these private sector companies, they need to make sure that their information fits into the platforms that, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture is setting up. Therefore, you need standardization. There's a lot of challenges there. Kevin, can you tell a little bit more? How do you approach that process where the private sector that basically is there to refresh, to constantly have real-time data in your DPI? How do you work with the private sector to integrate those systems?
Yes, so thank you so much for that question. So I think in the data ecosystem, we've had challenges that are actually, that everyone knows. For example, data existing in silos. We've had, everyone is keeping his own data set that spans from the private sector to the public sector, state departments. So everyone wants to put data within himself. So that was a challenge. Number two, and how did we approach that? If you are keen, there was a policy that was given out there that no one should keep, for example, farmer registries. So this was only allowed through one system, and that was how Kiamis was born. So from Kiamis now, we will be able to plug in other sector players. So if you are an input provider, you issue seeds, you do fertilizer, you provide pesticides to farmers, and you want to consume, you want to know who are the farmers within a specific county, a specific ward, a specific village, and what enterprises are these farmers doing? Are they doing maize? What are the production systems? Are they mixed farmers? Are they doing mixed? Are they doing for subsistence? So all this profiling for farmers and farm was done. So for you, as a service provider, is just to lay on top. So this was a value addition to the private sector, and that is how it was easy to now bring them on board. However, it was a challenge. We tried this on a platform called the KADP, the Kenya Agricultural Data Sharing Platform, where we provide an enabling environment through an open standard that was FarmStack to try and see how can private sectors exchange data amongst themselves. And I tell you, up to now, not all of them are. We still have trust issues, which is the third challenge. People still have trust issues within the so as to ensure that they share data. So to solve some of these challenges, one of those solutions was to do the DPI. So a DPI, this is not the first time, and Kenya is not the first country to do a DPI. We've had countries out there that have been able to successfully reach out to the farmers through other, not just the production node, but it cuts across through all the other nodes, and they've been able to benefit. So building on that, one component of a DPI is the data registry. So we've solved the issue of data existing in silos. Number two, the next layer is to ensure interoperability within the ecosystem. So players, including players within the government sector, will have bodies like AFA, like KEFIS, like the ministry itself, like even development partners, international organizations, farmer organizations. All these people will be able to exchange data and information within that single identity system. So that will solve the other issues. I believe the final layer, and I think this is a layer that will also bring another type of service providers. These are the credit providers. That is the payment system. So once you are able to, it's like our national ID system. If I key in your ID number, the bank certainly knows that it is you without exposing you to privacy issues. So from a DPI, we are able to ensure that if a bank wants to give you a credit, you provide an identifier, and we are able to score you maybe through credit insurance and the credit scores, and then issue that. If you want to give you like input supply, like now we've already for you to get an e-voucher, that is the fertilizer subsidy, you need to be onboarded on the KIAMIS. So these are some of the solutions we've been able to provide to the country, not only to small-scale farmers, but also to commercial farmers, so that we ensure that we address the challenges that we're experiencing within our agricultural sector ecosystem, and that is on our roadmap as we realize the implementation of the Kenya Ag Sector digital public infrastructure.
Great, thank you very much. Please, let's give an applause for the panel. We thought of a concept to make this session a little bit interactive. So we have, for each panelist, we have a different flip chart. We would like you to split up. We take up to, we're a little bit over time, we take up to, let's say, 15 minutes. Just address, you can discuss the key challenges for each of the topics. Let's focus on two. So agree on the two main challenges and see what solutions, what typical solutions we would have for those challenges. Then we come back and we basically wrap up. Yeah. So if you let me see if this works. No. Anyway, you see the panelists. You see, so table 1 would be me. Table 2, we follow the same order. Would be Jagema. 3, Hosea. Sianda. 4, Hosea, and 5 on this side, Kevin. Yeah. So there will be some markers if you need, and we can discuss. We focus on the two challenges. We probably need to keep it standing up, because if it will be difficult to have enough space to sit around it. Sorry to disturb. At 1 o'clock there will be lunch. I suggest we wind up. We summarize quickly centrally at the podium, and then please after that you can continue, of course, the discussions with the same people. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Let's come together and so we can wind up. In the meantime, while we prepare for the final words, you see there's a QR code on the screen. If you scan it, there is a chance to leave your details and indicate with whom you would like to follow up. And then we will reach out to you with the contact details of those people. So if you scan the QR code, it will take you to SurveyMonkey to fill in a couple of data points. So it's very unfortunate that we have not so much time, because I think what I saw at the different flip charts, the discussion was really good. So at my table, at least we could say we had a strong participation of women, at least one woman. We didn't take into account a good gender balance in the panel, so I'm sorry for that. But of course we had excellent speakers, but I picked up that criticism from Elizabeth. But she compensated by really leading the table, the flip chart on digitalization. So one of the challenges to introduce digital. Okay, so to reduce. So to reduce the challenges to introduce the digital tools, we were thinking of combining it, making it basically compulsory for other solutions. For example, to access finance, banks can easily make digital sharing of data, information compulsory to make sure that you can access finance. So that would speed it up. Of course, if we have a lot of older people in farming, every time it comes back, that the average age of farmers is relatively high. So make sure that the tools are appropriate. For example, use USSD. Even though many farmers have smartphones, also the older people, they prefer still USSD, for example. So involve, of course, the youth and the women. And at the end, if the market demands digital exchange of information, then basically there is no choice. Yeah? So that's a very hard reality. The EU is not going to lower their standards. They might make it easier for farmers to comply, but they're not going to lower the standards. So there has to become a realization that it's important to adopt digital tools. Good. Maybe we can follow the line, and you summarize in a few minutes the main findings, solutions from your discussions.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the team that came to the Digital Solutions panel. We identified quite a number, but the ones that stood out, one was about regulatory environment for the utilization of digital tools. A case was cited, the use of drones in the country. They are good tools that can be very useful in agriculture. However, there are certain limitations in the use of those tools. And so there's a feeling that these regulations need to move at the same speed at which digital transformation is taking place. That is the request or the solution that is being sought from that. Then following the same is the costs of the licenses are prohibitive. For instance, to do a license for the pilot of the unmanned vehicle, which my colleague here called the drone, you have to pay 130,000 for that one license, and also to operate it in your farm, that's about 130. And I remember in the morning when we were talking about the EU Business Forum, the SME was mentioned as one of the beneficiaries of that. So looking at the costs that are related to use of digital tools and aligning the same with the application by the beneficiary, it's very prohibitive. So there's also a solution or request that review the licenses and the cost of implementing digital tools. Even the subscriptions of some of the applications that one has to use, you find that they are in different levels. The category of just the normal user, then the premium, then the platinum, then the gold, and the rest. And the cost keeps on going up. Yet, they are the ones that are supposed to catalyze the business and to make the business more profitable. So yes, we are talking on the one side that we utilize digital tools, but on the other side, we create barriers that prevent the people from doing that. And there was a lot of passion that was shown by the Gen Zs that were in my platform were there. So you can imagine the kind of energy that was there. Then the last one, it's about capacity and knowledge, capacity building and knowledge. Obviously, knowledge is progressive, that there's need to do the knowledge transfer in terms of aligning the digital tools and the SPS applications. So these need to move in tandem. So those were the three items that came up. Thank you very much. And thank you for the team that contributed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In our group, we would like to do it differently. You know, this panel has been very unconstitutional. So I'd like to request my very able Njeri to please come over and summarize what we did agree in a very vibrant group. Thank you very much. You could use that one. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. How are you? Yeah, thank you. I'm part of having inclusiveness on this panel. It was such a panel. Is it true? Including the morning one, right? But why didn't you raise these issues? Okay, finally I'm here. And I'm here to balance it and, constitutionally also, serve the purpose of the, of the inclusiveness. So on our group, we had quite some feedback, and so among the solutions that because we were asking ourselves why data and why the use of data and how best do we move forward. So many solutions are available, but sharing data is a problem. People still have trust issues on matters of data. So you're asking for data, but I'm here questioning, why do you need my data? Should I give you, for what purpose do you want to go and do with it? So it's part of now questioning matters of trust. Again, lack of utilization of data. So the many years, different people from different sectors have been collecting data. Some of them have not been using it. And so there is also a lot of unutilized data lying within different institutions and organizations and not being used effectively to inform different things like policy, to influence different spaces where it's supposed to influence. Again, a lot of data, but not organized. Yeah, there's a lot of data that has not been separated into different areas or even different categories to make use for particular farmer use or for particular use by different sectors. Again, lack of proper communication. So when we begin here, I want to ask those of us from 254, how many of you have vaccinated your cows back in your village? You see? Now this is where communication comes in. When something is not communicated properly, even from the sectors where we sit, you can be sure that it's going to have rejection on the other side. So when you go to farmers telling them we want data, it's important you're able to communicate that this data will inform policy, this data will inform how best you can be supported by different sectors, this data will inform how best, even as we go to look for resources, you're going to be supported. The other one is real-time data collected and organized. It is you can bear me a witness that each time you get clean data, you are always very happy because you know this is going to make a lot of sense in your work. So having data that is real-time and organized, it's quite important. Again, private-public partnerships. Here you find different partners come in to create partnerships within organizations, but after the partnerships end, the systems and the investments made by the partners, they're left lying. Just because the organization is not able to fuel this to another level, or just also make the basic subscriptions that should be made to be able to fuel the systems and the systems that were left to be able to work in place and work effectively even without the partner support. Also, effective multi-stakeholder engagement, very important, from where farmers sit to where different stakeholders, regulators, parastatals who are related to the matters at hand, including having roundtable meetings also with policy makers. This ensures that by the time policies and bills are being, can I say, drafted and taken to Parliament, they are inclusive and they are a 360 reflection of what it should be. Lastly, continuous capacity building. You can bear me a witness that it is important for institutions to have continuous capacity building to ensure that the capacity is created and enhanced all the time, and also it's intergenerationally passed to the young ones and those coming new into the institutions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I've been told we should not be talking about gender, but intersectionality, which is women, youth, disabled, name it, so that we are balanced. Now, my session, as you can see on the board, turned out to be more of a question and answer session, which is okay in terms of capacity building. The first challenge that is there is awareness across the various stakeholders. It came out very clear that, yes, we are in the space but we are not aware of what is required and where I should go. The next element is, what should I do? Again, limited information. So there is need to enhance communication so that everybody knows what is required. And lastly, in terms of importance, is the product range is so narrow that it even makes the SPS issues more complex. Because if it was wider, then you spread yourself out and you can deal with the issues much more. Thank you.
Am I also with the time?
Yes.
Okay. So due to time, I'll focus on what has not been mentioned. Of course, we've talked about lack of standardization, data existing in silos. So what I can add there is issues of fragmented data systems. Some of them are obsolete, but still being used up to date. And then also you have issues of duplication. You can have multiple organizations doing the same thing within a given area. So a solution to this will be integrating the private sector and also building public and organizational trust for transparency, accountability to demonstrate value. Then the other one is fragmented institutional mandates. You see now, like the issue of awareness, you'll find that some of those private sector industries, they are within the other areas like trade, investments, maybe finance. But then some of these people within maybe the agriculture sector are aware, but the other ones are not aware. So possibly to address this, we have our targeted policy developed for that is more towards the agri-food systems approach, so as to include, we have a one-off that includes everyone on board. Then also, I don't think we talked about challenge of digital divide, especially among the rural populations. And issues of inclusion, I think has been mentioned, one of them is gender, also targeting women, the youth, especially some of these groups are not very prominent within the production node, but they do actually contribute a lot on those very crucial nodes. Then the other issue, also on digital divides, maybe targeted solutions. We have these communities using, don't expect them to be having smartphones. So probably if you do a solution, maybe target those feature phones through channels like the USSDs, SMSs, and all that. And then maybe the other challenge I've not had been mentioned is the long-term funding models, so as to ensure sustainability.
Great, thank you very much. I think it's interesting to hear what has been discussed at the tables. Let me not try to summarize that, because it would be difficult, but also because we have passed the time a little bit. So sorry about that. I hope this was interesting. If you would like to be in touch with any of the panelists, please scan the QR code or just reach out to any of them directly. If you fill in the information on the QR code, it's through an online survey, we will make sure that the people will reach out to you. Yeah? Great. Thank you very much. And an applause for the panel, please. I think there's lunch. I don't know, to be honest, how it works. If there's a lunch voucher or you can just walk in. Please be adventurous. Make sure that you're not too late. Yeah. Okay. Thanks again.